Hi.
Looking very well coiffed, up early, ready to go, ready for the transatlantic trip to London coming up soon. Vikings heading out on Thursday. You were reacting, and I don't know if your mic was open. I heard you. You were reacting to some of the highlights we were showing while we were doing our Hump Day Homers calls. How much other football do you even get the time to watch, given that your Sunday afternoons are tied up with Vikings games?
Well, good morning, and thanks for having me. And it's a privilege and an honor to be a Hump Day Homer. I don't. I watch. I'll watch Sunday Night Football if Monday Night Football's compelling, and I'm not super tired because these games have a tendency to wipe me out. Then I'll watch those. So the standard Thursday Night Football stuff like that. But it's interesting. The longer that I've called these games, it's I don't want to say the less interested, but really the less really just feeling like I absolutely have to watch everything. That's kind of dissipated. I have access to something called True Media, where I can watch the all 22 from every single game. So like that Brian Robinson run right there, I saw somebody level a nice block, lay out a nice block. I don't know who it was. So when we're done, I'll get into that. I'll find the touchdown. I'll see who it was just to see A, how cool it was, but B, just to kind of learn a little bit about the game.
Do you find yourself critiquing the play-by-play announcers and just looking for little things, little faux pas like Tom Brady stepping on Kevin Burkhardt's touchdown call, which he did on Sunday, the first touchdown that the Bucs scored against the Eagles? Do you critique as you listen and watch?
No, excellent question. I've never been asked that. Thank you, Michael. No, not critiquing is not the right word because it's a hard job. And I'm not saying that it's a hard job like, it's ten degrees below zero and we're outside putting things together and stuff like that. I don't look at it that way. But it's an in the moment, rapid fire job where you can't script things because it's unscripted. So therefore, when Mike Florio gets outside the numbers, heads to the left inside the 20, then he gets a block from so and so at the 5, touchdown PFT. That all writes itself. Now, when it comes to the way people use their voices, some things that I've heard either myself use or other people create, and then some newbies in the game. Now all of a sudden they're using them. I look at that as flattering. I know some others do too. So we have a text chain that West Durham, the Vox for the Atlanta Falcons, started probably 4 or 5 months ago. All of us, every play-by-play voice in the NFL, and we stay in touch and we wish each other well into games. We talk about other teams and stuff like that. So I have a lot of respect for my Voxing brethren.
You did a very nice job with your phony call that broke out spontaneously, but you disappoint me. You shouldn't have been on the
Now,
plus 20. It should have been on the minus 20 because you know what happens when a guy finds a seam, gets a second level block. What happens next? What happens next?
it's it's like 7:16 in the morning, sent cornfields, but and Florio crosses the 50, cuts outside the numbers at the 40, and he's loose inside the 10. Touchdown.
Well done. Who's the
I'm a
most
hump day
active on the
homer.
text chain? Who's the most active on the text chain of all the announcers? Who's the
Um,
one that just keeps, and it keeps dinging and dinging, and it's like, oh God, here it is again.
right.
Probably you.
Brad Sham, no, I'm the least active. I get more texts than most human beings ever walking the face of the earth because I have multiple jobs and speaking engagements and stuff like that. So no. Brad Sham from the Dallas Cowboys, he's quite active. Wes Durham from the Falcons, he's quite active. It's awesome when Merrill Reese of the Philadelphia Eagles jumps in. And he and Uncle Merrill, I mean, he's just a beautiful human being, but the text will usually be about that long and a lot of glowing things and stuff like that. So it's the play-by-play guy for the LA Rams too. He's starting to jump in there a little bit.
Who's the one that uses all caps? Any of them? Screaming into your
Well,
eyeballs?
it depends on what we're trying to get accomplished, Michael. Because we get paid a stipend, okay, and not to get too far in the weeds here, but NFL or NFL media will pay us all yearly a stipend. Now, for this will be, I think this is my 23rd year calling Vikings football. So, there have been years that there's one tier, and it really is a by faith under assumption situation, but then when the check comes in 1099 like fashion, it's okay, cool, by faith, I got this cash. When I say by faith, it's like the assumption of how many of your calls they used. So there's one number here, then there was one number here, then there was one number here. Well, that changed a little bit the last couple of years. I really didn't care that it changed because, like, when I was getting those checks, '09 with Favre, and some of the years where NFL Network and NFL Media and NFL Films were using a lot of my calls, and like the Netflix documentaries, the receiver and quarterback. There were a lot of my calls with the Minnesota Vikings in those series. So it just, what, I would do it if there was no check. But when they took that bull by the horns with the NFL, West Erm and Brad Sham, the texting was quite voluminous, and it was quite frequent. But it brings the brethren of Voxes together.
First of all, never say that you would do something for free because someone will then force you to. Second of all,
yeah, you're
and
right.
Now that we're in the weeds, I just want to make sure I understand this. You get your regular check to do the games, but there's a separate payment when they use your voice from those games for other stuff, whether it's an NFL Network highlight show or NFL Films or the Netflix stuff. You get an extra little kick on top of that, but it sounds like at some point somebody decided, hey, maybe we don't have to pay those guys after all, or at least we don't have to pay them as much.
Yeah, I mean, it's something like that. Yeah, now see, I mean, I've told you this before. I don't get paid to call Vikings games by the Minnesota Vikings. I get paid by what you see behind me there, iHeartRadio, iHeartMedia, KFAN, the radio station for which I work. I get like this mercenary 1099 from the Vikings to do preseason TV, speaking events, .com related stuff, and et cetera. But yeah, I would get a check every single year for X amount of dollars with the assumption, that this, and generally it was the top level check, which is not, it's not above $5,000. All right. Or it didn't used to be above $5,000. So it's not like life-changing money. But then all of a sudden it changed, and, it went down, and everybody was getting the same. And some people started complaining about, like the level of it and which way it was going. I couldn't care less. It was a check that was in my mailbox. I had no idea why I was getting it. And you're right. It's you've told me that for years about doing things for free. And even at age 58, I still probably do a little too much for free. But like, I did a charity dinner last night for Second Harvest Heartland at a wonderful restaurant in Minneapolis called FEMA's with Timberwolves head coach Chris Finch. Yeah, like, I don't need money for that, okay? Because people are paying money to be at that table with voice of the Vikings and head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I don't need to be paid for stuff like that. So I'm always going to do philanthropic stuff like that.
Well, your check for today is already in the mail. It'll be waiting
Likewise
for you when
for
you get
yours.
back from London. Exactly. At least we're even.
Hey, what about the squad? 4-0, up 28-0 at Lambeau. That was unbelievable. It flipped a little bit, and, it flipped a lot. The Vikings never were losing the game. It was kind of like the Giants game. The Vikings never were going to lose, but then it did get a little wonky at the end. But I just wonder, because Wednesday is watch back things day from a critical fashion. It takes about 2 hours to just kind of like figure out how Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave and Dontavian Wicks were getting so wide open. A couple of weeks ago, George Kittle kept getting wide open on us. Week 1, Daniel Bellinger, tight end for the Giants. He was en route to quite the decent day, and Daniel Jones was very inaccurate, and Bellinger had a couple of drops. The Texans don't really have a tight end of note. So what I'm getting at here is into the bye, into this Tottenham Hotspur game. I'm going to look back at some tight ends from other teams and just kind of see what they're doing and how they're getting so wide open as we approach the bye.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.